That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time, far too frequently for my taste, when we have to hold a podcast that is just one of those podcasts you never want to record. Folks, we've lost someone recently. The man, the myth, the comedy legend, Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert Gottfried was simply put on this earth to be funny. We say that a lot about a lot of the now past comedy legends, which again far too frequent for I think a lot of our taste. But it's very true here in that Gilbert Gottfried, he sounded funny, he looked funny, he thought funny. The man became synonymous with comedy, seemingly for just being himself. But the fact of the matter is, he made it look that effortless because he was that good at it. Which, I think we all knew, while we all knew him for one role or another, or maybe multiple roles, or his stand-up, what have you, whatever circle you knew him from, I think we can all say we knew that voice, and dear God, we're gonna miss hearing it. So we truly love and respect, and we're trying to kind of like pay tribute one last time to one of the greats that kind of we've all heard at least once in our lifetime, just kind of gathered here to kind of reflect on kind of the greatest hits and the life of the man, the great Gilbert Gottfried.
All right, I'm going to jump in here. Guys, this has been a really tough one for me. Yeah. I think it's been a tough one for a lot of people. It's hard to even put it into words, but you know what I've been really grappling with as far as this goes is that Gilbert Gottfried seemed like the type of person, there's like a tangibility to him that isn't there with other celebrities, an approachability, an everyman quality, but more than an everyman quality. Like, I don't know. I can't tell you how heartbreaking it is in retrospect listening to his podcasts and just listening to him like the most simple, like, join my Patreon with lots of goodies, or like doing an ad for what's the I'm fucking blamed. Doing an ad for Cameo, the website where you can get the celebrities to do voice spots. And now I'm thinking like, oh my God, we could have had Gilbert Gottfried in an intro, and now it's too late. Monkey, you've met the man, and that's one of the big reasons why you're here. So I'll definitely begin to you soon in that regard.
I'll chime in as I can.
But there is absolutely, to me, a certain tangible, like, we have lost one of our own with this. Dragon, you put it very well with the whole he was put on this earth to be funny thing. But guys, I truly believe that Gilbert is the type of person where it's like just listening to his podcast, listening to how humble the man is. Like, I don't know, like this might be like I don't want to like get on a high horse here. I'm not saying like, oh, we could have booked him, but I'm saying like he's the rare type of celebrity that I think would consider sitting down and actually having a conversation with the likes of us schmoes. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean by saying like he had a real everyman kind of tangible, approachable quality to him. And not only that, I mean, I'm just talking about just him as like an online presence. Jesus Christ, look at the roles. Iago, I mean, we'll get into the life animated thing, but he literally brought the voice out of an autistic child. He's that good. Oh my God. Yeah, this is a rough one, man. It really is. I've been grappling with it for a few days now. It honestly just, with his podcast, as recent and relevant as it is, his podcast actually got some big exposure quite recently with the, with all the other comedians passing, the Norm Macdonalds and the Bob Sagets of it all. I'll go back to Gilbert and his podcast. So it's just such a shame. It's so crazy that all these comedic legends are dying in succession with one another. And yeah, my heart's breaking a little bit, guys. Like it's going to take me a minute to get over this one. All right, Monkey, you can work in your story whenever. You don't have to work it in right here. But what are your overall thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's probably not going to be as wonderfully worded as you two have been.
Oh, thank you.
but yeah, it's like he's definitely been a presence throughout there. Like, even if I didn't always know from the beginning who he was, like, so yeah, he's that, like, knowing him for Iago or Digit or the Affleck bird, and it's like, or it's, hey, it's that voice, that's wonderful voice. It's a voice
like
that
this is going to be a preview of what I'm going to feel when Wallace Shawn dies.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
Thanks for making the room even sadder.
I'm sorry. Just Wallace Shawn just seems like a very apt comparison with how many iconic voices he's done. Anyways,
yeah, but yeah, it's like when his voice pops up in a thing. When he pops up a thing, it's like, oh, that's a delight. It's always wonderful to hear.
Like Dragon said, you know exactly who it is. It's so distinguishable.
Yeah, and I feel like where was I going with this? What was the map of this that I was going on? But yeah, it's always a delight. Like, yeah, sure, the voice is quote unquote annoying, but for me, it was never bothersome. It was like I said,
he built a brand on it.
Yeah, it was a delight to hear him in things like, sweet, Gilbert Gottfried's in here. That's fun. And I feel like I've been a bit more familiar with his, say, voice work than comedy work, and it would certainly be a good call to check into that more. And it is neat to look at his style in that and see, well, okay, what was his style and what made him work so well?
Well, that's why he was such an effective voice actor. The voice was all part of his whole, like, the character within his comedy, essentially, just the more boisterous version of himself. So it very much went. That's probably why he was so great at voice acting.
Yeah, like how kind of amazing thing is, like, there's this, I don't remember the exact year, late 10s or something, but a Theater Mania interview with him and Jonathan Freeman where they're talking about doing the voices for Aladdin. And like he does a quick moment of snark at the beginning, but after that he drops the character entirely. Like, obviously it's still the Gilbert Gottfried voice, but much more subtle, and he's just straightforwardly talking about what it was
Gottfried's
like
a very laid back guy
do
when
the
he's
role.
not on.
Yeah. For reference, I have heard 2 episodes of his podcast, although they were some time ago, so not as fresh, but hey, it's content to find.
I mostly listened to the Weird Al one, and I listened to like half of the Billy West Returns one. So there's my context.
The ones I had heard were David Yazbek and Weird Al.
The Weird Al one was really good, yeah.
Before we go forward, I just want to shout out to anyone who has not seen this. Unfortunately, it's not on Hulu anymore, but it's available in some places like Tubi and all the sorts of kind of. Well, actually, Tubi's available to everybody, so actually, folks, check it out on Tubi. Gilbert Gottfried had a documentary that was about him and his life and kind of covers everything we're essentially going to be kind of hitting here roughly. So it's it's called Gilbert. It's just Gilbert. It's great.
Gilbert, that's my name.
No, I'm not the grape kid.
All right, I'm sorry, Dragon. That's a reference to the clip that I tried to send you.
Okay, my point is, folks, check it out.
I'm certainly going to bring up that clip at some point. So
yeah, of course. Anyways,
I'm so glad you checked. Like, hey, did you get the clip earlier? So thanks for that. All right. Yes. So
I literally have it up on Skype right now. Like it says, like, here's an essential 60 seconds of Gottfried goodness. So I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Did you type all that too?
Yes.
No, I didn't.
I'm literally looking at the message on my Skype right now.
Nope, it definitely did not get it.
I don't know what's going on with Skype.
All right, okay, just refocusing, just real quick. I remember, like many of us, I think for me, the first was probably Aladdin. I mean,
I think most of us, yeah. I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
The moment I made the connection, though, that it's okay. So there was, this voice does have an author, so to speak. Was the behind the scenes on the Aladdin, the awesome Aladdin DVD release. They really had the whole. He did like I assume it was like I forget if it was a platinum or diamond. They had one of those fancy they gussied it up for the re-release.
Gilbert Gottfried up close and aggravated.
Yeah, that's it. So
Oh,
they had him
I
essentially.
literally just got chills when you mentioned that. Not even kidding.
So they had him essentially like kind of hosting kind of the anniversary behind the scenes. I don't even know if it's really an anniversary thing. It's just kind of like the re-release, kind of almost like a premiere on a DVD. Essentially, him kind of like framing around him. I believe they did like a bird behind the curtain gag, if I recall. It's been a while. I'm probably off about that. But the fact is, I was like, when you kind of made the connecting,
Curtain.
yeah, very much like don't pay no attention to this to the bird. But yeah, so when you connect the dots, I'm like, oh, so that's it's that comic I might have seen in passing, that Gilbert Gottfried guy. So that is the voice. So again, this big personality that was in that little bird is in this little.
There
man.
must be some child out there whose first word was Affleck. Affleck.
Yeah, Ben Affleck's kids.
You're probably not wrong.
Ben Affleck's kids. The first word they
Iago,
learned.
I've told this story before, but I was in a movie theater like years ago. Like this was like during the Bennifer era. And there was a movie for the Ben Affleck sci-fi movie. There was a trailer for the Ben Affleck sci-fi movie Paycheck. And one guy in the audience was just randomly yelling, Affleck! All right, anyways.
Okay.
if I may say about Iago, it
Yeah,
feels like
let's
one
just
of those
talk about
roles where
Iago.
even though, yes, it's like what I'm getting is that even though, yes, it is clearly Gilbert Gottfried, it still feels separate. Like, yeah, it's not just Gilbert Gottfried. It transcends that and is Iago. Maybe it's also from knowing him as Iago before really knowing who he was. Maybe it's that sort of thing. But even then, it's still one of those cool little moments of an actor, an iconic voice becoming a character.
Over the Aladdin trilogy, Iago arguably has the biggest arc out of literally any character in the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the unsung thing about Aladdin. So that's the unsung thing about Iago is that, again, you could say this about all the players. If you ever look at the behind the scenes of Aladdin, you're going to see like, oh man, we had such a great cast on that film. Because obviously when people think of Aladdin, the number one thing they're going to think of, well, Robin Williams is the genie. But that's the thing, though. I mean, Godfrey, he did pull kind of his version of a genie performance in there with Iago. He's really cultivating a character who has a wonderful dynamic with the villain. He's definitely he's like the top tier villain sidekick. He's the all-time loud.
Oh, without question, yeah.
Iago is like the all-time.
Didn't he make Robin Williams crack up at one point?
Well, I mean, they don't really. I mean, they've really met each other.
Yeah, I remember hearing that the bit about like, oh, we gotta get the weapons, the knives. So what about this picture? I think I'm making a funny face.
No, he cracked everyone. I don't know if Robin Williams was there. He cracked everybody up in the booth who was there. I mean, maybe Robin Williams kind of poked his head in, but regardless, it's like here's the thing. Gilbert Gottfried loved improvising on that film. He improvised that whole like the guns, the knives, and this little photo of ours, like that thing. So that's he loved. So in that respect, again, it was very much like like two Robin Williams.
Improvised the heart attack thing.
Oh, probably.
I think I'm going to have a heart attack and die from not surprise.
It's funny. He always joked. It's funny. They had like a little. They told Gilbert something when they were making the movie. Basically, like they talked to the writers. I don't know if he was joking about this, but it sounds on the money. He said, "When in doubt, hurt the parrot." That was kind of like
yeah. I've heard that.
When in doubt, hurt the parrot.
You know what's funny? When I was actually rewatching Aladdin for my marathon, is that that little scene where Jasmine is confronting Jafar and then Iago gets stuck in the door. I was like acknowledging that like on my rewatch of like that is an excellent way to basically like give an exposition scene a real kick of comedy energy. Like that is like expert comedy pacing right there.
Oh yeah. So that's the thing. I just love how he offsets, Jonathan Freeman's Jafar's perfectly. And then you have like the boisterous one, and you have the kind of reserved one. And then when Jafar gets crazy, Iago gets kind of reserved. And like, okay, he's gone Lulu. He's gone Looney Tunes on us.
Of course, it was originally going to be the other way around.
Yeah, which was a good choice ultimately.
And then they redeveloped it around Gottfried's persona.
Yeah, it was a very good move. So I just love that, like you buy the friendship, but you also buy the abusive element of the friendship, where it's a little bit more of like a kind of an intimidating Abbott and Costello, one could say, or like a Laurel and Hardy. Only it's like, oh man, something really bad could happen to Iago. Mm-hmm. He's not careful. But again, as Steve was saying, this character became so beloved with that arc. We gave him a redemption arc through a trilogy and a series. And he rides off into the sunset with Aladdin's dad at the end. Like essentially building to his own spin-off, quite possibly. So yeah, it's quite amazing. The stay power. And ultimately, what is it? They loved Gilbert Gottfried and they thought it was so funny. It's like we have to find a way to bring him into the sequels because he can't just keep him in the lamp. We got to bring him back. How do we keep him around? Well, okay, we'll bring him to this. We'll bring him to the side of angels. He's got wings. He can do it.
All right, Dragon, do you want to bring up Life Animated at all here?
I'm sorry, what?
Life Animated?
Yeah, I was about to bring that up, yeah.
Go ahead.
So the Owen Susskind story of it all. So Life Animated is this documentary. It's another one I recommend folks check out. It's excellent. It used to be on Amazon. Now, well, you're on your own, I'm afraid. Life Animated, it's this moving, inspiring story of how Disney animated films, did like kind of a 1 in a million kind of miracle long shot of teaching, essentially a mute autistic boy how to communicate, to VHS no less, which is even more impressive. So Iago was essentially the breakout character. It was the character, like the scene, like essentially the whole, like trying to remember the exact scene, but essentially the whole chump husband scene, I think. The whole, like, you could be the chump husband. That was the scene, if I recall.
The two, they kind of blend the two together in the movie, but there's the chump husband, and then there's also the, I don't believe it. I just can't believe it.
So that's
we are never going to get a hold of that stinking lamp.
So the idea is that Owen here, he's seen all the Disney movies very over and over again, and basically Aladdin was like the one that probably stuck with him the most. And his father had had a parrot version of Iago, and they kind of played with, and he did like an impression of it, and that kind of like he talked to the parrot, essentially, and that was the big breakout thing. And that really unlocked the key to Owen Susskind, kind of growing the way he did. And it's a remarkable story, and so wonderfully in that film and in real life. I had no idea about the second part until recently. I got to be honest. I knew about the movie where Owen was able to meet Gilbert Gottfried, and it's quite a lovely kind of thing Gilbert Gottfried did, because he's met both Jonathan Freeman and Gottfried, because again, these actors fundamentally changed the boy's life. And it's so amazing that he's even performed with him on Comedy Central, which I had no idea about. That he did like a routine together as putting like a really fine point on it all. Like, oh, look at them, like doing the routine together. It's adorable. I think it just speaks to the fact that Gilbert Gottfried's comedy, in a sense, performed a miracle because he was so insanely entertaining. No child could not quote the lines that he threw out there. He could not be denied it just simply could not be denied. I mean, how wonderful is that, right?
Yeah.
It's Gottfried putting good out into the world.
Do you think, he arrives in the afterlife and Douglas Seal is there with crackers? Oh, for fuck's sake!
Oh God.
Could be.
Oh man.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Also, just to speak of some other good that Gottfried did, he I believe his sister, in that Gilbert documentary they put out, I think his sister suffered through cancer, so he did a lot of charity work for raising money for cancer research and such.
Mm-hmm.
So he did a lot of good.
Good.
And again, he didn't brag about it too. It wasn't like it was just like he just kind of did off to the side. Again, Gottfried very humble, and according to his friends, very frugal as well. Like he stole hotel soaps and everything all the time.
Dragon, did you know he was on Celebrity Apprentice?
Well, I knew he was on a lot of things. So the big thing, he was on Celebrity Squares, like Hollywood Squares.
Well, we'll talk about that. Because that's a whole thing. But
but he's been pretty much on everything, pretty much.
Yeah, the one you're referring to. Yeah, I saw some of that when it was on
obviously, Celebrity
television.
Apprentice has a big elephant in the room that we're not going to address, obviously. But
and we don't mean a boo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I specifically remember from the final episode of that season when he's asked, like, who should win? Which of the two contestants? And he's like, oh, I think you should give it to me. But, okay, I'd have to side with Geraldo because for whatever reason.
The big clip I saw was they were all standing outside, and he's like, what are we doing out in this weather? Why aren't we in the building in an office? All right, anyways. Okay, so
Yeah.
yes, Dragon, let's get to Hollywood Squares because my God, is that an iconic running gag?
Yeah, it's just one of the. It's like it's so simple, but it's like the best response ever, and
You
never.
fool!
It never gets old, right?
You
Someone
fool.
someone like denies his help or gets the answer wrong in Hollywood Squares, like the '90s revamp, which I remember on the Nanny. They had. I assume Gilbert was on the Nanny episode as well because he and Whoopi Goldberg were regulars on that, so they had two brothers there too. Like, you fool! It's just so simple. It's so simple and it works.
Yeah, it's so digestible. All right. That's about it for Hollywood
Yeah, I
Squares.
mean, he's also
simple.
he was always a delightful commentator when he would appear on World's Dumbest. So pretty much always going to get a big laugh whenever he had something to say there.
It's always great when Gottfried riffed. He's a great ranter and rifter.
Yeah, it's like this approach he appears to have had of like just going on and on, like say with like this DVD bonus feature I was watching on YouTube, him talking about the aristocrats at the roast, but he's mostly just going on some whole thing about money and how no, you wouldn't have that because you're a higher species and you can't open an English muffin, and he's just going on and on about that.
I mean, let me bring it back just kind of something a little more chronological here. I mean, his big live action break in film, like when he really made like his first big film appearance, was Beverly Hills Cops 2, I think, where he basically was in that. He basically riffed and kind of ranted against Eddie Murphy, and he stole the movie. From what I understand, Beverly Hills. I've not seen the sequel. I just from what I understand. 2, not great, but Gottfried was a highlight. So he basically kind of stole the movie for a scene there where Eddie Murphy's going down there and like they're interrogating. Essentially, I believe he's a finance guy. And he says, "No, my wife. That's my wife's car. No," and he's just killing it wonderfully.
See, it looks like his final role was God.
I'm sorry, what?
Like his final role, or at least one of his final roles, was in the role of God on what's it called, Smiling Friends, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I need to. I
yeah,
need to
so
get
yeah,
caught up
my
on
last
that.
role
It's an
was
Adult Swim
God.
show.
That's a thing for the rest.
Well, that's as high as you can go, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really one above God, really. It's I mean, maybe Vera Farmiga, but no one really above God. Let's be honest.
Yeah, if I may, if I may say about his delivery, this is what I was going to say about that Weird Al appearance. Is like, in a way, it almost does feel like a physical embodiment of how he could deliver comedy. Like just when he's pulling and dumping all of the stuff out of his wallet. That's sort of what it's like. Like, here, you want the ID, the security number. I'm not a man. So, hey, physical. And I think he used repetition as well. That may have been a thing. Like, again, with the aristocrats or his bit on Moby Dick.
Maybe we should talk about the aristocrats. Let's just jump. Let's talk about it. So this is the thing that made Gottfried's his legendary status in the comedy world was, you got to remember, his stand-up was more like a personality, and basically had jokes that built to cute punchlines. Like, for example, like not the aristocrats, but like he had like there's the big joke that he would go to. It's a good one. It's the Jewish kid and the shark. Where essentially, long story short, basically there's a kid on there's a Jewish kid and his mother. He's being attacked by a shark. A man goes to help the shark. Help the son from the shark. And basically after this whole endeavor, he gets out of there. And the mother says he had a hat. But getting there, so again, it's a real it's like, well, that's good, but he had a hat on, So that's so a cute punchline, but the way Gottfried tells it is not to be compared because he's going to and he does this to the shark, and he's like, anyway, it's hilarious. It's like the journey to the end of the punchline. So that's what Gottfried's thing was, which lends itself to the ultimate dirty joke, which he told. Less about the joke itself with the aristocrats, it's more about the stage, and this is the legendary stage.
Yeah.
So,
it's
folks, this is no exaggeration. I'm sure you've heard about it. Again, there's like a whole documentary about the aristocrats, but this is like a story legend in the comedy world. Everyone knows this story. Essentially, it's that
it was like immediately post 9/11, right?
Yes, like the first roast after 9/11 was Hugh Hefner's celebrity roast. It was roughly like I don't know if it was like a few days after 9/11, or at least like the week and or in the month. That up. it was like the week or in the month of 9/11. The point being, whenever they shot it, because when they shot the roast, they probably aired it later, I guess. The point being, whenever they shot it, the room was very tense, and Gottfried, he was like the first brave, poor, dumb soul to make a 9/11 joke, like probably the week after the towers went down, and someone said the one thing every comedian dreads to hear: "Too soon." So Gottfried, like the flop sweats were there. It's like, oh, poor Gilbert. How is he going to dig himself out of this hole? And what does he do? He goes for the life raft. And it's less that he went for the life raft, because everyone's like, oh, he just went for the life raft. No, he went for it because it was like the only card he had left in the deck. He told the aristocrats joke, which again, folks, I'm not going to repeat for you here, but it's the filthiest joke known to man. Emphasis on the filthy.
It involves a lot of fecal matter.
That's what I'm saying. It involves.
And doesn't he like heckle Rob Schneider in it?
Yeah,
as well? I'll wait for you.
That's the thing. So Schneider's killing Schneider, who's like off to the side. He's basically laughing, and this is what I'm talking about. Just him ranting and just kind of making it's about the journey. So while he's telling,
then we have Pauly Shore over here. He's gonna be in a terrible Pinocchio movie in about 20 years. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you see my point, though.
I'm refraining from saying the father, when can I be on my own line in the Gottfried voice.
But father, I just want to go out on my own and explore the world. All right.
Oh, by the way, I checked. September 29th. That's when it was.
Okay, that might have been when it
Dragon,
aired.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Regardless, what was I? Okay, yeah. So again, like literally filthiest joke ever. But again, it's about the journey getting there. Where Schneider is again. It's like he's breaking to kind of play on the room. See, the room is just getting happier and happier. Just like, oh, we can laugh at this. Finally, we found like the ultimate icebreaker, and Gottfried's just going for it. We saw him like fall down the hole, and he climbed up. He climbed up it like Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight Rises. He jumped out of that pit, man. So it commanded so much respect in the comedy world because of that, and he kind of cemented his status of like the comedian. He was always kind of the comedian's comedian. He was like the very humble guy in the room. He's going. He's stealing the free soaps. He's going from gig to gig, and it's just the fact that was like a moment like the old, just like wow, we kind of battle the master here. Gottfried is like he's the comedy personality, man. It's like yeah, and sometimes like
journey is a great word to use.
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah. Some of this stuff does feel like it is a journey and going through some of his comedy. And like even say in his later years, like say when I saw him, how his delivery would get a bit slower, but even then, just the slow delivery itself just adds on to the funniness of it.
Yeah.
Like that he's just taking his time, and that just makes you laugh more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be fair, Gottfried over the years, he had, his humor did land. He wasn't always able to dig himself out of the hole like he was with the aristocrats. I mean, sometimes you had like, the host of the Emmys once, and he made the Pee Wee Herman jokes, which did not go over well apparently. And the tsunami joke was the one that kind of blacklisted him for a while. That one did not. That's why he lost the Affleck gig.
What do you mean? He's still the voice of the Affleck duck.
No. They found a guy who impersonated him.
I'm being sarcastic. What was it? But yeah, there was this great tweet someone put up, like Gilbert Gottfried died as he lived, with people saying too soon.
That is a really good tweet.
I didn't realize until I think today that his week doing Rocky Horror on Broadway was November of 2001. And like you look at that bootleg of it, and because of how it starts later in the show, the first thing
you want to explain that to us, because we are the layman in the audience when it comes to that. That's a pretty deep cut pool.
Okay, so there was like 2000, 2001, there was a revival of the Rocky Horror Show on Broadway. Normally Dick Cavett was the narrator, but like late 2001, he was out for a couple months, so they would bring in a different celebrity narrator each week. And like 1 week in November, it was Gilbert Gottfried. And so going on with what you said about how recent it was, there's one point where it lights up on him and he just says, next week's celebrity narrator is Osama bin Laden.
Oh, God.
and he's just like going on about how Bin Laden's actually a Broadway fan before he was a terrorist.
Oh my god, dude. Oh, it's great. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know if this is what that revival normally did.
In New York.
Yeah, like right in the middle of Manhattan.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if this is how that production normally was, like say with Cavett, where when it came to the narrator, he would do some comedic bit and then go into the narration. You look at that bootleg, Gottfried is definitely doing that, like doing stuff about a pole.
I mean, at first I had to go to you for context. I was like, what even is this? What is he doing?
But yeah, so for me, one of the absolute highlights of this is it's a song that's not in the movie, where Brad has just found out Janet cheated on him, and he's like, that's it, it's over. And the narrator's supposed to be saying like, oh, well, over, well, not the night for sure, but if Brad was anything, it was a man of heart. And then Brad goes into a ballad. And then it's like, so between Brad saying the line and going into the ballad where the narration is supposed to be, it takes like 5 minutes. Gottfried is just going on like shit talking him and like kind of being all like, why don't you like me? And just going on about stuff and trying to sympathize with him and stealing his glasses. And then going into the narration and putting his arm around him and his head on his shoulder. And Brad is just sitting there. He's supposed to be sad, but he's clearly trying not to crack up.
That would be the hardest
time or two.
try
And
not to
Gottfried
crack up
cracks
ever,
himself
dude.
at a point or two.
All right.
From the director of Come From Away.
Really? No shit? Oh, wow.
God, tying it back to that point in time somehow.
I know, right? That's weird.
But yeah, it's a delightful bit. I believe if you look on YouTube for Rocky Horror Sebastian Bach, that'll be it.
All right.
Yeah, but Gottfried, they loved having him on talk shows. He's really good on talk shows.
Of course, yeah.
Particularly, I mean, I had this hilarious appearance on Arsenio Hall once where the gag was Arsenio just like, because Gottfried has his reputation as being, he just loves to kind of rant and go on and just riff, essentially. Just Arsenio, he's just losing it. He's laughing so hard at him. He just basically he's literally strangling him on the couch to get him to stop talking. It's hilarious. But speaking of,
Tiki,
yeah, it's really good. You should look for it.
Do you see the one I sent you? Sorry, go on.
Go on, Drake.
Yeah, it's really good. You should look for it.
Okay.
All right.
Will do. Tiki, did you see the thing I sent you guys with him on Conan O'Brien?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Again, going back to Dick Cavett, oddly enough.
Right.
But yeah, where at first it's Dick Cavett just mouthing along to Gottfried and saying like, "Oh, I'm in a Dick Cavett costume."
You know what's great about that is I feel like that bit is like a super early example of how Conan kind of like pushed the medium of late night. Where it's like it clearly wasn't just an interview. Obviously, it was clearly a very, very. So, Dragon, essentially what it is that you have Dick Cavett on stage and he's mouthing along to Gilbert, who's off stage, and then Gilbert comes. Gilbert comes in and he's got like a very, very cheap like Dick Cavett quote unquote costume,
like a painted plastic bag with a paper Dick Cavett face on it.
I never leave home without it. All right.
And he's like conducting an interview with Groucho Marx and like holding up the costume in front of him when he's supposed to be Cavett.
It's pretty much just like
one point he looks at Conan and is like, "Whoa, wait, you're not David Letterman."
All right.
At the end, he grabs the cue card.
Speaking of talk shows, we should talk about. I kind of happened upon this. I had no idea this happened. I just kind of had the thought of like, well, usually when these our beloved celebrities, pass, one of the things I check, thinking back to them is have they appeared on either the Muppet Show or Sesame Street? So in this case, Muppets Tonight. Gilbert Gottfried was on Muppets Tonight for a segment. It was hilarious.
So I feel like this segment really encapsulates his free spirit and his ability to just go all in on a roll.
Also, after this, maybe really
looked more like it wasn't even about him just like vulgarly ranting about stuff. It was more of an expression of joy.
Totally.
Yeah, it was just it was him kind of going into kind of the abrasive sort of like the abrasive, obnoxious kind of like timbre of the voice essentially, and just kind of playing into it, but for fun.
Imagine if Eminem's Stand song was about Gottfried and Kermit.
Jesus.
I don't know what that is, so just no.
Anyway, yeah, and
so,
Sesame Street as well. It looks like he had at least one appearance there.
Yeah, no, he did. So that's the thing. So I just love that. It makes me really want Muppets Tonight to be added to Disney Plus. By the way,
I know. That's the next one they should add. I've been saying that.
He should have. You know what he should have appeared on? Earth to Ned.
Well, man, man.
It's shit like that stings the most, I think. I really do.
Of course, it's just hysterical seeing Kermit the Frog essentially held hostage, dealing with like this fan who won a contest. Just Gilbert Gottfried's wearing like.
I just love the vintage Muppets shirt he's wearing. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's wearing,
what if that was the contest Statler and Waldorf lost?
From Muppet Vision.
Yeah. And I may as well obligatory shout out to Mike McNasty from that Alice in Wonderland TV series, which is on Disney Plus. I'm a bully.
All right.
Okay, well, let me talk. I want to bring this up. We gotta get this in here somewhere. Okay, we gotta talk about debatably next to Iago, like the Gilbert Gottfried role. Okay, we gotta talk about Mixie Spitalik.
Yeah, is it just the one episode that he's in?
Well, no, he's in 2 episodes. I mean, he's come back in other things. In the DCA, he's only in 2 episodes. The second one's not.
What's funny is that I am very familiar with this character played by Howie Mandel.
Exactly, yes. So you've seen Mixie. He's popped up in other things, and Gilbert Gottfried's voiced him maybe like an extra time or two and other things outside of the DCA. With the point being, second episode, writing. Dini did. I don't think Dini wrote the second episode. Paul Dini wrote this Mixie episode because he loves Mixie Spitalik. That's why it's great.
Basically kind of like it's essentially like Rumpelstiltskin in the form of just fucking like baseline Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah, it's just there's a shorter version of Gilbert.
It's just like it is like Gilbert Gottfried, like the blue meth Gilbert Gottfried.
So just the definitive Gilbert Gottfried role for me. It turned Gilbert Gottfried into an all powerful, this kind of this all powerful character, little character.
I never knew this character even existed until the past week. So
I
didn't see any footage of him until somewhere in the last few hours, and seeing the first clip I've seen of him being the last 4 minutes of that. I guess his introductory episode with no context. That's something.
Wait, Tiki, did you watch the episode or just the clips?
I watched the full episode. I didn't send Monkey the clips.
But you guys want to be sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found a couple clips.
Well, the context, simply put, is
I think I figured out the context a little, but yeah.
Well, yeah, basically he's a fanboy of Superman. He's got a fanboy enthusiasm, but he gets ticked off because
Superman. Is that why he was there? I never caught. Yeah, I got a little more context. I never got why he showed up to begin with.
Yeah, that's the whole sell with Mixie. He's a fanboy who wants to challenge Superman. That kind of makes him an antagonist, and basically wants to keep hanging out with Superman. And basically, the trick to get Mixie to go away is to get him to say or spell his name backwards, which of course his name forwards is already so hard to see. I love to do like a little visual diagram in the episode. No, not Mixelplick. Mix, yes, Spitalik.
Okay, I love Yes is represented by the 70s Yes album cover. That's genius.
And by the way, that's actually how you say the name. It's not just the DCAU thing. They do their research on those names, guys.
So this character should have been in that Justice League ride at Six Flags then.
Is there wacky stuff that happens?
He flies around. You could work that in with the 3D.
Sure. Anyway, but yeah, he's I like he keeps going like, oh, nuts and everything. He just keeps like nuts. And it's like month like you guys love the idea. Super has like every time of the month like Mixie shows up and he's gotta deal with them. Then he'll go away. 30 days later, he's back. It's just like this hilarious, just kind of running thing through the episode.
And it's like every time Superman just like outsmarts him in like the most mundane ways.
This Dini wrote such a perfect episode. It's such a loving episode because again, Dini loves like the crazy Silver Age stuff with Superman. So again, so that's something they found a way. Thanks to Gottfried, they found a way to legitimize Mixie. And the way they did it was let's just embrace the silliness of him, but we got to get the actor who's going to bring that to the surface that we can kind of build that around naturally versus like an actor is doing a silly voice where it's going to be Gilbert Gottfried voicing this character and just making him so absurd he has to be from the fifth dimension. Like no human being could be this ridiculous.
Sounds like a good approach.
Yeah, so it just worked wonders, and the writing complimented it. And again, they tried bringing Mixie back, but honestly, as a one and done, this is like a perfect Mixie representation. It's like at the end, he gets the girl in the end, and he's still ticked off at Superman. He wore his giant battle pants and didn't end well. It all worked out. And again, like the personality compensating for the lack of physical strength to go up against Superman. Like Superman is vulnerable to magic, which is what this guy's all about. So this guy, it's a wacky way that dynamic works. And it's just it's kind of a great kind of 40s update to the design too. Putting him in the little purple suit always tied it together. Anyway, sorry, a lot of Mixie love in the room. I see. Sorry.
Should I maybe just go ahead and briefly mention the time I saw him?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, go on, tell us.
Yeah, so this was I think it'll be like 5 years ago next month. 5. Time flies, am I right? No wonder he plays birds. And oddly enough, happened to be at a pretty decent time in my life for once. And he was going to be appearing at the Brea Improv. So yeah, I went to check him out to see him, and yeah, it was certainly a pleasure. The thing's a bit of a blur, I won't lie, but his opening moment was pretty brilliant, especially in a meta sense. It's like he came out and he starts talking, but there's no sound coming out of his mouth. So he's just he's just mouthing whatever he's saying and gesturing. You don't hear a thing. And then eventually he realized this. So then he adjusted the microphone, put it up to his mouth, started talking again, but still silent. And I fucking wish I could remember how he was first heard. How he worked in the first moment you hear him. I remember also later there was some bit where eventually he was just doing physical comedy with little pieces of paper or something. He had paper and he was just folding it into shapes and holding it up in front of his mouth and saying, "Oh, I'm Colonel Sanders." Afterwards he's
sorry. No, go on.
Yeah, and afterwards he's briefly in the lobby. Afterwards he's in the lobby, and signing and selling his Dirty Jokes DVD. So got that, briefly met him and got a picture with him. The two things I remember were, again, the voice being more, not the exaggerated thing we know as much, but a bit more subdued, natural. And also, I also remember him being kind. So, hey, memories we're making.
That's nice. He brought those DVDs everywhere he went, by the way.
Gee, what a surprise that's a bit. I think I'm going to have a heart attack and die from not surprise.
All right.
Anywho, yeah, I remember one of his bits in the comedy clubs where they had these giant, the little serving trays, and he basically a Mickey Mouse gag. This is Mickey running away, and he's moved the ears behind him or something. It's really held up these giant things behind his head like they were Mickey Mouse ears. And it was wacky. Let's see. Monkey, you've spoken about this before. Rather enthusiastically. Remember the Billy and Mandy Christmas special? He played Santa Claus, both not just an average Santa Claus, but the vampire Santa and regular Santa Claus.
Hold on, you're asking me if I remember the Billy and Mandy Christmas thing?
Oh, I'm asking if you want to speak to it, but yeah.
Sure. You fool! Yes, of course I remember.
Yeah.
I even have a Santa quote lined up for the end of the episode, but yeah, it was so wonderful. The one case where you could get away with casting Gilbert Gottfried as Santa, where it would work, and it worked so damn much. And both in his vampire and regular persona, he did them so well. It's such a delight at the end to hear him go, "Mandy!"
Yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, some of the unsung voice work that he did. I mean, for me, I think the kind of like a third tier thing would probably be like Digit the Cyboid. I think the gag was Cyboid because he was in the PBS show Cyber Chase, which I loved as a kid because it was the only way I could ever engage with math.
Dragon, I've got a minor bone to pick with you about this.
What?
Is the clip you sent me really the best one that you could have sent to
I mean, short of sending you an entire episode, Tiki, those are the options.
So,
what clip did he send you?
I mean, he only spoke like a few times in that clip.
I don't know what to tell you, Tiki. It's not my fault people aren't digging out clips of Cyber Chase. Otherwise, I would have had.
All right, fair enough.
There really ought to be a whole.
So I always have to take a gamble of how much research you're actually going to do.
Yeah, I mean, like Rob just said, I think in the wake of this, I think someone really should just upload like the best of Gilbert.
They should. I was looking for it. They should.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if I was a little more consciously familiar with Digit before Iago. Could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think it's another bird roll by coincidence. I'll say that much.
Huh.
But yeah, he's playing kind of like a Jersey bird of sorts. It kind of feels like very kind of somewhat of a streetwise kind of bird here. But again, I love that he was like a very friendly. He always helped the kids out. Matt and Nez and Jackie. Kind of. He basically what Digit's role in the episode is that he represented the audience of the kids or whoever's watching. Basically, like, okay, Digit, we'll show you how it's done. Here's how the math goes. So essentially, that's typically what his role was. It was hilarious. He had I don't know if it was his little brother or his nephew. I can't remember because I'm thinking nephew. Probably nephew because kind of like a little kind of a Robin Kermit the Frog sort of thing. Because the idea is like a little smaller version of him that was housed most of the time inside his little compartment on his chest. There you can see. Widget.
Did he voice Widget as well?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's just him, but they
another Dr. Bender type situation.
Yeah, exactly, which is hilarious. I just love the idea of there's like a Russian nesting doll theory to Gilbert Gottfried casting. Well, we need a smaller one, so just pitch him up a little bit. Or it's like, what is it, Didge? Like something. It's like we're gonna.
I do believe there is a video on YouTube where someone took a clip of Cyber Chase, but they redubbed Digit with the 50 Shades narration.
Oh God.
Well, that's disturbing. But all the same,
well, it's probably supposed to be disturbing.
Well, I know it doesn't mean.
It was such a moment it's a hell of a moment when you read 50 Shades for the first time and you realize. So wait, the line "Holy fuck, is this wrong?" but "Holy hell, is it erotic?" was an actual line in the book. It wasn't just Gilbert's commentary on the book.
All right.
Honestly, the only version that I'd like to hear is just Gilbert Gottfried just incredulously reading 50 Shades of Grey, just like, what? She did what with that? Why are there beads?
Oh God!
Now this is an actual line from the book. Oh my, sex and IHOP.
Oh well, that's impressive, actually.
All right, Dragon. This clip is only a minute long, so I'm going to go ahead and take a risk and play it. And I think you can get the gist of it just from the audio. So hold on.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with having an imaginary friend. In fact, I still have an imaginary friend. I call him Gilbert. That's my name. That's my name. Why wouldn't you call me Gilbert? That's my name. My name's Gilbert. And even though Gilbert is imaginary, he's always there if I need someone to talk to or a shoulder to cry on. I told you 1,000 times, I'm not imaginary. I'm real. You see me? I'm real. Look, you want identification? Here, anything you want. You want a driver's license? You want ID? You want a birth certificate? Hey, maybe we could say hello to Gilbert right now. Oh, Gilbert. I'm here! I'm right here! I'm right in front of you! If you could only hear what he's saying to me right now. He's such a joker. Okay, that's it. I'm out of here because you're a nutcase.
All right, Dragon, thoughts?
Well, that's hilarious.
Isn't it? Isn't it?
So again, the energy of Godfrey, what he put into that, just like angrier and angrier.
Yeah, very expertly
There's a Jerry Stiller quality to it. I love it.
All right, so they played that clip on Weird Al.
That was a paid and read show, so he should have showed up in an Ant-Man movie.
Yeah. All right. Any other things we need to address? I kind of have a couple other things to say about his podcast.
Well, I was gonna bring up like Dr. Bender, which we already kind of did. Just the fact is, it's like he's playing he's playing the dentist, and he also plays his son, and it's kind of playing like a sadist and kind of like the creepy dentist who's like enjoying that he's inflicting pain on these kids.
And then they recast him.
Wait, did they?
Yeah, and then I think Butch Hartman took over the role.
Man, this is what I'm saying.
Yet another reason to not like him.
It just took.
You got Rob Paulson to imitate me well in your show with the ghost kid, and you got him in this show as well. You're gonna recast, keep it in the Rob Paulson house, down on Fifth Avenue, wherever he lives.
Yeah, again, it's like after Fairly Odd Parents just took a nosedive after a while.
Everyone knows that. Yeah,
that's probably when that happened because I didn't know I imagine. But
taking a nosedive like Papa-in-law and Pretty Princess off a cliff.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that's. I was going to bring up last thing I saw him in. Unless you want to. The podcast.
What was the last thing you saw him in?
Yeah, so the last time I saw Gottfried in something, not counting his documentary, I think chronologically would probably be the most recent, was Million Ways to Die in the West. Mary played Lincoln.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he was in that.
Well, more accurately, he did not play Lincoln. He played a guy, the Seth MacFarlane character, the Albert character. Is like, I don't think that's President Lincoln. When he's going to the podium, and he has like this rant, I can have all the licorice I want.
Oh, my God.
Never got around to seeing that one.
It's a very, very forgettable movie with like maybe 2 or 3 memorable gags, inclling that one.
All I know is Seth MacFarlane, sheep testicles, Doc Brown.
That's not the. Anyway, yeah. So it's not a perfect film by any stretch. It's no Ted. Regardless,
it's slightly better than Ted 2, I would say.
Well, that's what. Yeah, sure.
Never saw Ted 2
either.
You know who's not in Ted 2? Gilbert Gottfried.
To be fair, though,
as far as I know,
Million Ways to Die in the West, though. Anyway, slice it. Tremendous production values.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about that movie.
Anywho, point being, we basically showed up as like an imitator for Lincoln to give like a graduation speech because they're in the old frontier, and it's just really funny.
All right, so yeah, just really. I'm sorry.
One more obligatory mention: that stop motion elf TV special.
Oh, yeah. Well, I hated that special.
Okay, that's mentioned.
All right. So yeah, the podcast, just to kind of loop back around, I don't know, man. I think just the fact that he was really into the podcast scene by the end, and like really, I mean, he had some truly, truly legendary people on his podcast. And the fact that his podcast, like I in the one episode I did listen to in full, one of the pull quotes is, this podcast is basically a tribute to the stars of the past, the old school Hollywood stars of the past. And I don't know, man, there's just such a meta quality to him doing the podcast getting really relevant in the wake of people like Norm Macdonald and Bob Saget passing away and them being guests recently, and then him just there's such a haunting kind of full circle quality to that. It's like a chapter of comedy being closed for good. But I don't know. Like I said, I just think the podcast is definitely a gift to anyone. I mean, he's mostly in subdued mode most of the time. That from what I've heard, I'm sure he does bits. But still, it's just like there's so much insight, and the podcast is definitely a great kind of a great window into who he was as a person, and not just a loudmouth comedian.
Yeah,
so,
as frustrating as a role can be, at least this timeline we live in does include, getting to hear Gilbert Gottfried give a huge laugh at the Alan Sherman Peace Halva lyric. Yes, it's a niche thing, but I'll take it.
All right. Dragon, any final thoughts on your end?
Well, real quick, one, we should say the full name of his podcast in case someone wants to watch it. Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast was a very memorable name.
Uh-huh.
And I guess in closing for me, it would be that, again, the echo your sentiments, Steve, is that the comedy greats are dying off sadly and more eerily unexpectedly. I apparently Gottfried had been sick, and I had no idea about it. But then again, given that he was a very private person. I mean, he had like wife and 2 kids, and like Howard Stern had to drag it out of him on the air that he was married, and it was like a whole thing. It's the fact that it's not a big surprise given how private he was that there were things we didn't know about. I mean, the most we probably knew about him would be if you were ardently listening to his podcast, you probably would kind of know about him. Even so, like that podcast, from what I understand, probably went off like a year ago or so. So probably getting sick towards the end, probably. But yeah, it's sad. It's sad to see him go, and it's really scary how sudden it is. But it's gonna be really interesting. Just like next time we're gonna hear the voice, whether it be something archival or just kind of going back to some of the stuff. I tell you, looking back in the old Godfrey stuff and rewatching, Mixie Spillick, the Mixie Spillick episode of Superman the Animated Series, it's like, my God, this character is so wonderful, and it made you just feel happy and just remind you how great that episode is and everything. And it's like, and then the reality kind of hits in there. It's like, oh well, the flames died out, but someone else is going to light it, and then we'll blow it out in the circle. We'll just keep going on and on and on. That's kind of what he was saying in that last podcast, is I'd imagine that, we're going to keep lighting the flames and keep putting them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Monkey, would you like to share your Santa quote?
Yeah. I'll lead in with just, my, I guess, final thoughts is that, yeah, it's gone way too soon. It's, a shame that he's not around anymore. But, hopefully, at least his suffering is hopefully over, and may he rest well. Thank you so much for the joy and laughs you brought us. And, see, I have a surprisingly wholesome, idealistic quote from that Billy and Mandy episode with him as Santa. So, and it feels like a nice thought to leave off on. I'm debating whether or not to do it in the voice. What do you guys think?
Dragon, what do you think?
Don't ask me that.
I don't know. You know what? In the interest of his voice has brought us so much joy, and this is meant to be a celebration of him, do it in the voice. Do it in the voice.
Yeah, I was thinking something along those lines. Okay. Sometimes you just have to take risks and have faith and believe in the goodness that we all have deep down inside us. That's what Christmas is all about.
All right. Okay, thanks for joining us, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this tribute. We hope it served as a good kind of touchstone of the man and his career. And have a good night. May you rest in peace, Gilbert. You will be missed.
Love you, Gilbert.
I just don't believe it. We're never gonna get a hold on that stupid lamp.